Hey y'all, I'm glad you are here. We are going over the fractions and decimals quick check. Now on your quick check, it only has fractions and decimals, but I love this chart, so I wanted to go ahead and put it up here just to kind of have as a reference. If you want to go, well, this is what we're going to be doing about it, so I'm going to start over here. If you want to go from a decimal to a fraction, you're going to use the place value that the decimal is written as the denominator. So like here, we have 2 places after the decimal. That's the 100ths place. So we're going to use the denominator of 100. If you just had 0.3, that's 1 decimal, so that's the 10ths place. So you would do 3 over 10. If you had 0.657, that's the thousandths place. So you would put 657 over 1,000. And the way that I remember the place value is I think about how many decimals there are, and then I think about how many zeros. So for example, right here there's only 1 decimal place, and if I think about the number 10, there's only 1 0. So this is in the 10th place. Here there are 3 decimal places, so I have to think about how many zeros that would be. That would be 3 zeros, so that's the thousandths place. If you wanted the hundredths place, you would have 2 numbers, 0.25. There's 2 decimal places there, so I would put it over a 1 with 2 zeros. So however many decimal places there are, that's how many zeros I use on the bottom. That's how I tell if it's the tenths, hundredths, or thousands. So that's kind of a way to remember it. We'll talk about the rest of this later, but all this is really great information that you are going to need, just not in this quick check. Okay, so the first type question says, what is 4 divided by 9, or 4/9, written as a decimal? Well, this far in our math career, we know that this fraction line means divide. So if I wanted to write this fraction as a decimal, I could just divide it. 4 divided by 9. Now you can do that in your brain, or you can do it in your calculator. Y'all know how much I love calculators, so I'm going to show you that in a calculator. So I pulled up my trusty old Desmos calculator, and remember when you don't automatically see the operations, you hit show keypad, and then you can type in your stuff. So we have a fraction that's 4 divided by 9. And notice when you hit that division symbol, it makes it into a fraction just like we had. And it tells us what it is as a decimal. If you were ever doing a problem and it was multiple choice and all of your answers were written as fractions and you got a decimal answer, Desmos has this option over here to turn it back into a fraction. I just wanted you to know that that was available. You can change your answer from fractions to decimals simply by pushing that option in Desmos. But this one, as a decimal, is 0.444444, on and on and on and on and on. It repeats. So let's look at how to write that. All right, so I'm not going to write 0.44444 forever, but I am going to show that it's repeating. So I'm going to put 0.4 with a line over it. That line tells me that that decimal repeats. So that's how I would change it to a decimal. Let's look at the next one. What is 0.28 written as a fraction in simplest form? All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to figure out how many decimal places we have. So I'm going to count. After the decimal, I have 1, 2. That is in the 100ths place. And because there's 2 places, I know on the denominator I need to put 2 zeros. That's how I think about it. I think about how many decimal places there are. That's how many zeros I'm going to need on the bottom. And then I'm going to drop the decimal and just put 28 on top. And now I want to reduce this. So you could divide the same number on top and bottom, and you can also do it in the calculator. So I'm going to show you that. So here I am on Desmos. I'm going to show my keypad, and I'm going to type it in, 28 divided by 100. This is how it looked originally. Notice it gives us a decimal, but we wanted it in simplest fraction form. So we can go over here and change it back to a fraction, and it will tell us that 7 over 25 is the simplest form. So Desmos is super handy because you can convert from decimals to fractions right inside the calculator. So please, 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 please be using this. Now, if you're trying to just use the calculator from your computer, like if I just go to calculator, well, that was slower than I thought. If I just tried to use this calculator app, it's not going to be as user-friendly for you. So if you did 28 divided by 100 in this app, it tells you 0.28, but there is no way to switch that back into a fraction. So I strongly suggest that you do not use the calculator app on your computer. I suggest that you use Desmos. Desmos has this awesome feature that will convert it from a fraction to a decimal for you. So this one does equal 7/25. If you didn't want to use a calculator, you would have to say, okay, what can I divide each of these numbers by? I know I can divide 28 by 4. I know I can divide 100 by 4. And that's how you could get 7/25. But again, if you are good with your calculator, then you can just use Desmos. Which symbol will make the number sentence true? Okay, so if somebody and we're trying to figure out if it's an equal to, a greater than, or a less than equal to, whatever. Okay, so we're trying to figure out the symbol that goes in the middle. If somebody asked you to compare 5/12 to 0.41, I don't know how much 5/12 is off the top of my head. Like that is not, I don't deal with fractions in my mind very often, but I do deal with decimals. Like if somebody says 0.41, I know that that's like 41 cents. It's a little less than half. Like I kind of understand decimals way more than fractions. So when I look at a problem like this, anytime I'm comparing numbers, I want to get rid of the fraction and turn it into a decimal. And remember, we do that by dividing. So let me go over to Desmos and convert 5/12 to a decimal. So I open up Desmos, I hit the keypad, I do 5 divided by 12, and it tells me that it's 0.416666, repeating. So 0.4167. I'm just going to round that. So I've converted this to a decimal, and it's 0.4167, and I'm seeing which one of these is bigger. Remember, they're not equal because this one has a 6/7 and that one doesn't. So we're just going to let the inequality mouth eat the bigger number. And so the inequality mouth is going to open towards that way. That is greater than this one. So we're going to use the greater than symbol. So if you see a problem like this, convert all your fractions to decimals and then compare them in decimal form. The alligator mouth always needs to eat the bigger number. Okay, which of the following is an example of a non-terminating? That means it never ends. To terminate something means to end it. So if it's non-terminating, that means it doesn't end. And then we want a non-repeating. Remember, repeating is where it says the same number over and over and over again. We don't want it to repeat. So we want one that doesn't repeat. So we're looking for a never-ending, not repeating decimal. So let's look down here. 0.23232323. Notice how the 23 keeps repeating over and over and over again? That one does repeat, so that's not our answer. Here we have 578942190874654. That one never repeats, and we know it never ends because it has a ... on the end. Notice all these have a ... so we know that all of these are non-terminating. We know that they go on and on and on. We're just trying to figure out which one doesn't repeat. So I think that's probably our answer, but let's check down here. 0.117117. So see how the 117 is repeating? So that's not our answer because we want it to be non-repeating. 0.90567, 90567. Okay, so notice the whole 90567 repeats. So that's not it either. This one has to be our answer. So when we say repeating, it's not just like the same number repeats the whole time. It just has to follow the repeating pattern. Neil takes his family to an amusement park for 7/8 of the cost since they visit in the winter instead of the summer. What is 7/8 written as a decimal? So remember, to convert from a fraction to a decimal, we need to divide. Let's jump over to Desmos and divide that. So I am going to type in 7 divided by 8. And it tells me it's 0.875. So that is going to be my decimal. Let me head back. That is what it's going to be written as a decimal. And just remember, when you type it in the calculator, you always do the top number, then the division symbol, then the bottom number. Make sure you always type it in the correct order. So that when you type in 7, divided by 8, when you type it in the calculator. Okay, which of the following is an integer multiple of the unit fraction 1/5? So in order to do this, we need to know what an integer multiple is. We talked last week about how integers are positive and negative whole numbers. So like examples of integers, you could have a -2, a -1, a 0, a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and on and on and on in both directions. Those are integers. They're not decimals, they're not fractions, but they're both positive and negative. And a multiple means that you're going to multiply your number by these. So a multiple is just kind of another way of saying multiply. So if we just try some of these, I'm just going to go through and I'm going to multiply 1/5 by each of these. Oops, I'm going to have to write really small. Just to see what some of my multiples are. So, and I'm doing this in a calculator. I know you can't see it on the screen, but -2 times 1/5 is -2/5. So that's an integer multiple. And now I'm going to do the same thing for -1. And I get, well, of course, that's -1/5. If I do it for 0, I get 0 times 1 is 1/5, times 2 would be 2/5, times 3 would be 3/5, and times 4 would be 4/5. You can keep going as long as you need, but what you're trying to do if it's multiple choice is you're just trying to multiply by integers and see if any of your answers match. So all of these could be an answer for which one is an integer multiple of the unit fraction. And I just kind of want to be clear, if we're doing integer multiples, you're going to take your original fraction, you're going to multiply it by integers. Make sure you are not multiplying it by other fractions. Integers just have to be positive or negative whole numbers. All right, y'all, good luck on this quick check. Hope this helps.